Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show sponsored by Betfred. Now, as we speak, the internationals aren't totally over, but the main business is done. The Welsh might disagree with me. Good luck to them tonight against Finland. But look, congratulations to Scotland, commiserations to Northern Ireland. And where are we with England? Is it now that Gareth Southgate quite simply has to play Jack Grealish going forward? Delighted to say alongside Mark Langdon and myself, we have the former Ipswich, Newcastle, Palace and most importantly, Charlton midfielder Darren Ambrose. Darren, good to see you.
Thank you.
How are you, okay?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
I listen to a lot of you on Talk Sports. You enjoying it?
I am. It come around quite quickly. Obviously, my good friend Darren Bent got his show, the Darren Bent Boot Room, and he said there was only one guest he wanted in, and that was me. So it's kicked off, and I'm on there every week now, so I'm really enjoying it.
How on earth did you get him to say there's only one person he wants alongside him?
Yeah, brilliant. It was one of those things. We've been good friends for a long, long time, me and Darren, and he always said, look, because he started before me in the media, so he always said, look, if I get my own show, I'll try and get you on, and he managed to do that, and you know, I'm appreciative to him because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be on there, and now I'm a regular, so I'm delighted this happened so fast.
Well, I enjoy listening to you.
I was going to say, you must have put some good crosses in for
He
Darren.
must have been very unselfish
give him
back
about
in the
50
day.
of his 100 goals, to be honest.
Okay, look, let's talk about the week's big talking points, shall we? And look at the internationals for the home nations. We're speaking before England play Iceland tonight, but England have beaten the Republic of Ireland 3-0, lost to Belgium 2-0, although there were positives. What have you made of Gareth Southgate and the side in this particular group of games?
I was disappointed against Belgium. Although they put in a half decent performance, I thought Belgium had two more gears to go up. I didn't think they were at full capacity. I think they scored two very good goals and then just sat back and see if England could break them down, which they couldn't. The Republic of Ireland game was a good performance, albeit Ireland wasn't great. They were very poor, and they're in a transition period that they'd want to improve on their performances. But the positive was obviously Jack Grealish. I'm sure we'll touch on that because he was fantastic, and there's a massive argument that for me he has to start the games. But will he put on a full strength team tonight? I'm not so sure. I think a few fringe players, a few players that hasn't had any minutes will play. So I don't think we've found a lot out of these games, to be honest. So the Belgium one was disappointing.
Let's talk about Jack Grealish now then, shall we? I mean, we talked about him before the international break, saying, should he be playing him? He's played him in two of the games, or the first one, Republic of Ireland played, I think, 60 minutes. How well has he done? Does he have to be one of the first names on the team sheet now?
I never say that with the national team for so long has always had these players they've got to play, and you know they've got to be the first name on the team sheet. I think what you would say is if he carries on playing like that, then he has to be certainly considered. I still don't necessarily like him out on that position like what he plays for Aston Villa out there, but I think for England, if Harry Kane's to be successful, he probably does need that pace in the wide positions, and then it's a case of finding a central role for Grealish, which I still think there is potential to do that. You could play 4-3-3, for instance, have his two holding midfielders, whether that's Henderson and Rice, and get a creative player in that position, which still allows you to have Sterling and Rashford, or Sterling and Sancho, because Kane hasn't scored in sort of this year's friendly. So I think trying to supply him is still an important part of what you've got to do outside of getting Grealish into the team.
Yeah, I mean, as well as Grealish has played, and he's been absolutely superb, I still think Sterling and Rashford are ahead of him in those wide areas. What do you think? And do they have to then, or does Gareth have to change the system to get him in? I don't think he's going to.
I don't think he will. I agree with Mark. I think Grealish needs to go into a central position. I think the three you mentioned, Kane, Rashford and Sterling, for me are the three that should play up top. But you need a player to link that. You need someone who's going to slip them balls. So Sancho's done well, but I think them Sterling and Rashford are ahead of Sancho. I would play him in a 10, but to play him in a 10, you then need discipline behind him. So you're looking at Henderson, Rice, who could sit behind him, and the width could come from the fullbacks, whoever it may be, because they get forward a lot, they get back a lot. They're very fit guys. Chilwell, Trent Alexander, they're probably the two that will start. So I would love to see him in the 10 and finding them little holes and finding the passes to the forward players.
I like a 4-3-3 or maybe even a 4-2-3-1, and that's probably the one where would fit him the best. But Do you really think Gareth Southgate's going to go for that?
I think if he succumbs to the pressure of playing Jack Grealish, then potentially he has to. I don't think he will. No. I think Grealish will be an impact sub, depending on how the rest of the season goes and who picks up injuries, etc. for the next year. I think he could potentially start off on the subs bench, but there'll be a cry out for him to play because he will unlock defences, and we've seen that. He reminds me of just a kid playing football in the playground, and I mean, you'll know from my personal experience, the things you did when you was 18, 19, 20, you kind of learn from some of the mistakes you've made and you don't do it anymore. He don't look like he'll do that. He looks like he'll just continue he doesn't let a mistake bother him and he just continues to do it. And some of the touches and the dribbles and the passes he done the other day were fantastic. Yeah,
his mentality as much as his technique and dribbling skills, it is fantastic. Look, big week for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Scotland did it, but they don't do it the easy way, do they? How big an achievement is that, though, for Steve Clarke?
I think it is. I mean, where they were, say, 12 months ago, there was a lot of negativity. I know somebody that is part of the Tartan Army, follows Scotland home and away, and he becomes so just disillusioned with everything. He started going to the under-21 away matches rather than the first team because he just hated the national team for a little while and hated what it was sort of doing to him. I texted him after the game. He was full of joy. Obviously, I think they've come a long way, and they really dominated that sort of first 90 minutes. They're hanging on in extra time, but the 90 minutes was really, really positive for Scotland.
Northern Ireland fell just short. They got an equaliser. Did you think they'd go on and do it as well?
I did, actually, yeah. I thought the momentum going into extra time could take them across the line, but it wasn't to be, and it's massively disappointing for them because it would have been fantastic to have more than just us and the others in the tournament coming up.
Yeah. Wales drew against the USA. They beat Republic of Ireland 1-0. Good luck to them, as I say, against Finland to win the Nations League group. Though perhaps the biggest thing to come out of Wales this week, Hollywood stars Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney becoming the Wrexham owners. We'll have to see what happens there, won't we? But one other thing I want to talk about as well, the result that was last night as we speak. Spain 6, Germany 0. I mean, wow. Yeah. What does this mean for Spain? What does this mean for Joachim Löw and Germany?
Well, I think as far as Germany, it's a bigger result for sort of Germany in terms of negativity. It's probably more than what it is for Spain. So I was on Kicker, the German magazine this morning, which is not it's not tabloidy, doesn't go overboard. And, you know, they were calling the result a disaster, complete disaster. And I mean, it was a complete failure really of the team that they defend too high without putting the proper press on, and so it's just completely disorganised. And when that happens, I think the coach is always going to get it in the neck. He was the one that dropped Boateng and Hummels and Thomas Muller. Muller and Boateng have since gone on and won the Champions League with Bayern Munich, and you know, for many people, are the best team in Europe at the moment, and they're key parts of that. And so you're looking around thinking, well, hold on, should they be in? He's been the manager for a long time. You know, he replaced Jurgen Klinsmann. Has that message just sort of stopped working now? There were question marks before the World Cup. There will be even more, now, because the World Cup was a shambles for them, and you know, things haven't improved. They don't look ready, I suppose, to win the European Championship. But England beat them 5, didn't they? In a game before a World Cup when Germany went on to reach the final. Yes. So you always have to be wary of that. But as far as Spain are concerned, a big result, because they're not as good as what they used to be. That sort of Xavi and Iniesta sort of time has just gone, and it may never come back. It was a once in a generation type thing. But Luis Enrique seems to have built a young, hungry team, and so that they'll be looking to improve come the Euros. But I think it was more of a negative for Germany than it was a positive for Spain.
Yeah, mentioning TalkSport, I heard you on TalkSport before that Germany game, and you talked about the lack of quality in the German defence. I didn't see, and I'm sure you didn't either, those 6-0. Okay, let's look ahead to the return of the Premier League now, shall we? Game preview 1 on Saturday lunchtime. It is Newcastle against Chelsea. And Darren, Chelsea have scored 14 goals in the last 4 games. They've conceded just 1 goal in the last 6 in all competitions. They didn't want the international break, did they?
No, they were in a very rich vein of form, actually. And I think they didn't start great. And Frank come in for a bit of criticism, which he didn't look like he accepted that much. But look, it's a group of players that had to gel, and they seemed to be gelling quicker than we thought, to be honest. I mean, Ziyech, I think, has had the pronunciation, looking fantastic, and he's only just come back from injury, so he's a real big plus. But them players coming in together and gelling the way they are, it's looking very positive for them. And I think he got the 0-0 that Frank wanted a few games ago, and that gave him a benchmark to say, look, we can defend if we want, but they don't need to when they've got forward players like they have. They can just go and outscore any team.
Were you one of those who said at the start of the season, or when they were spending that amount of money, that they should be title contenders, or look, give these guys time and then we'll see what happens?
Yeah, I was the give him time, to be honest. I just felt there was so many, 6 or 7 players that came in, and you need time to gel that together. And I didn't feel they were title contenders this year. I mean, looking the way they're playing at the moment, it looks like they very well could be. I think Mendy's been probably their best signing for me, because he sorted the back line out. As much as Kepa's been off form, we all know that Mendy's come in and he looks fantastic, and he's solid back there, and it gives them, like I said, a benchmark to go and play forward.
Yeah, I agree. The signings have been fantastic. Mendy been absolutely key. How have the Chelsea foreign players done for their countries? Timo Werner scored a couple, didn't he, against the Ukraine?
Yeah, he did. I mean, I suppose that's always the worry was, Thiago Silva and playing South American World Cup qualifiers, but Brazil did well. I think Werner will be pretty devastated by what happened in the most recent game, and I think sort of anybody connected with that German national team, I don't know if sort of Rudiger's will be involved, probably not in terms of the Chelsea starting 11. So I think it was okay. Jorginho scored a penalty in their win against the Poles. So yeah, I think it was mainly positive. Kante scored as well for France. So you're getting goals from all over the team at the moment.
Inconsistency nags away at me. And that's just not me. That's Steve Bruce's words after what happened, just before the break as well. A word on your former team. How do you see them doing? Got some good players. How can they win this game?
I don't think they can win it. I don't think they will win it. They have got some good players. Callum Wilson scoring all the goals is what they needed. They needed that forward player to score them goals. They haven't really had that in previous years, and it's kind of up in the form of others as well, which is brilliant. We haven't seen the Ryan Fraser Callum Wilson combination as much as we thought we would have at the moment. That's still to come as well. I just think they've got to stop their forward players, and I think defensively Newcastle are not massively strong. So I think Chelsea will comfortably win this one.
Okay, Betfred selection, Chelsea win?
Well, Chelsea win, but my selection is I think Werner will come back and score 2 goals.
My selection actually is a bit of a shock. I'm going for a draw in this game,
okay.
Only because I think the international break and the early kick-off time just makes the favourites a little bit more vulnerable than they ordinarily would be for this type of game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I think I can see maybe like the Sheffield United game at the Bridge, perhaps Newcastle coming at them, getting the first goal. I think both teams have scored, but I think Chelsea will end up getting a win on that one. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, game preview 2. It is Aston Villa against Brighton. If Newcastle are inconsistent, the same could be said for Villa, although on a much higher level, you have to say. After 2 defeats, they were absolutely superb against Arsenal, weren't they? And with Jack Grealish in the form he's in, what's possible for them this season?
Well, everyone's saying they could challenge for Europe or Champions League. I'm not so sure. I think the inconsistency, as you said, will play this season for them. But Jack Grealish is on astonishing form. He is for both club and country, as we've discussed. I think they're just enjoying their football. I think from last season, what happened when they scraped up in the last game, I think this season to be coming out and being one of these teams up the top of the league, I think it's given them a lot of confidence. And as we know what confidence can do in football, that it can do anything. So they can achieve anything. I just don't quite think they're there yet.
Do you think the fans not being there, was a lot of clubs you could say, maybe Sheffield United being one of them, they need their fans, but Villa, the way the fans can be sometimes, actually it's not necessarily a bad thing. They're not around.
Potentially, but then on the flip side, they started so well. The fans the atmosphere in the place would have been phenomenal with them first few games, and to go unbeaten for 4 or 5 games as they did. But yeah, I think when you're on a bad run, the fans particularly there can get behind you. So it could be a good thing, and I think they need to bounce back.
Talking about Brighton, interesting signing for me was Adam Lallana, fantastic player before his serious injuries. Does he look like he's slowly but surely finding his way and performing better?
Yeah, I think it's just difficult to know sort of what he is sort of now in terms of what his best position is. I mean, even Klopp was trying him sort of further back in sort of a more sort of defensive midfield position. And I still think that Brighton are just trying to work out where Lallana sort of best fits into that team. But when he's on the ball, there's no doubt that you can see the quality and why he's played for England, why he's played for Liverpool. But I think it is about trying to find sort of where he fits into that Brighton system. He's not an easy player to sort of pin down as to what he is anymore.
Very good sides. Don't have a goal scorer, and they actually sometimes struggle to create opportunities as well. What do you think in this one, Betfred selection?
I think it will be comfortable for Villa, and I think the man of the moment, Jack Grealish, will score any time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for both teams to score. Brighton have only failed to score once this season, and that was against dogged Burnley.
Okay, I'm going to go for Villa to win 2-0. I think Mings as well would be on a high. Grealish, McGinn, Ollie Watkins would be refreshed. I think it'll be a comfortable Villa win as well. Okay, game preview 3. Good game this. It is Spurs against Manchester City. And Mark, Jose versus Pep. Of course. A few years back, this was the ultimate meeting of managers, wasn't it? How big is the rivalry now?
I still think there's a bit of rivalry there. I mean, when it was Real Madrid against Barcelona, it turned really ugly, and it got to the stage where Pep actually went on TV and started swearing and sort of calling out Mourinho a little bit.
Mourinho pokes people in Tito in the eye.
I mean, it wasn't good. Obviously, Mourinho has this. I think it was more the Real Madrid-Barcelona thing, and particularly for Mourinho, him not getting that Barcelona job really fired him up. When he won there with Inter, he was dancing on the pitch, celebrating, and they put the water sprinklers on to try to dampen that. So I think it was more about that kind of rivalry necessarily than a real sort of hatred between the two managers. And Mourinho's got a fair record against Guardiola. Only Klopp has won more matches against him. And you were talking about crowds not being there. This is probably the kind of game where Mourinho's happy that the Spurs fans aren't there, because if he wants to play really defensively, he can. Whereas if the fans were there, maybe they'd feel more obliging to kind of open up.
Spurs won this fixture last season. If they win this, and they are currently second as well, what's possible for them? Are they title contenders? And I do believe, I think I was listening at the time as well in Talk Sport, where Spurs were 3-0 up against West Ham. You were talking off air about them being definitely going to go on and win. Well, maybe not definitely, but perhaps go on and win the title. We know what happened in that game.
Yeah, I spent all the previous day writing out a big 2 A4 bits of paper of why they can win it this year. They were 3-0 up, and I was going through it, and I think by the time I ended it was 3-3. So that was very frustrating. But you know what? I said at the time, they can be title contenders. They can win it this year. I really do believe that. I think Jose is a big reason behind that. I think his famous second season as well. He's got a fantastic squad. They've got at least 2 fantastic players now for each position. I am a Spurs fan, so I will be getting giddy this season as well as everyone else. But I said after the 3-3, if anyone can grind out a result, a 1-0, a very tight game, it's Jose Mourinho. And not many teams can do that now in the Premier League. And then the following 3 games, 1-0, 2-1, 1-0, 1-0 to Burnley, where they probably shouldn't have got anything out of that game. So it's looking good for the future. However, the next 3 games, City, Chelsea and Arsenal, this will tell us whether they're really title contenders or whether they're not, starting with Man City. But City are not playing too well at the moment, so I think it's the perfect time to play them. And I think Jose will be hoping to put one over Pep.
Well, how do you see City at the moment? Do you see them as a team that's struggling to get to the heights of 2 or 3 seasons ago? Or do you see them a team that's top of their Champions League group, actually only lost 1 Premier League game this season, win that game in hand, and they're only 2 points off Liverpool? Where do you see them?
Yeah, it's crazy when you say it like that, because you look at them and think, they're off form this year. They're not doing too well in the league, but then you mention what you've said, and it's like, wow, shows what levels they're at, what standards they set for themselves. They'll be there or thereabouts up the top for sure. They'll be one of the 3 or 4 teams that are going to be seriously title contenders. They just need to start picking up wins and not draws. Aguero was a big loss for a long time. I don't quite think Jesus is the man to step into his shoes. So getting him back is a priority. But again, why they haven't...
Who would you put there then?
You'd have to put Jesus. You'd have to.
Or Ferran Torres has done pretty well.
Yeah,
certainly
he's obviously
against
done well. I
Germany.
think did he play off the wing?
Yeah, he can. Yeah, he can. Yeah, they used a Yaffabal sort of
Yeah.
more central,
Yeah,
or Morata.
I mean, he scored a fantastic goal, Jesus. So it's a bit harsh on him. I just don't think he can step into the Aguero shoes yet. Whether he can, I'm not too sure. Why they haven't got a backup is beyond me. I think they relied on Aguero far too much, and he probably forgot to buy someone else to back him up. So it'll be a tough game for City, I think.
Well, just to back you up, 10 goals in 7 Premier League games. That's the fewest at this stage of a season for a decade for City. But let's get your Betfred selections for this. Are we wearing the Spurs hat on?
I will be, yeah.
Head or heart,
I
speaking here.
do think Tottenham might nick this one. Another very tight one. I'm going Harry Kane to score first.
I'm going for a draw. City have already sort of had 3 1-1 draws this season. I wouldn't be surprised if there was another one.
Yeah, I'm going for a score draw as well, but it will be interesting. Next 3 games, absolutely crucial for Spurs. Okay, game preview 4. It is Manchester United against West Brom. And Darren, what's your take on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his future at United? Does he have one?
I think he has one. Whether he should have one
Short
is
term or
a
long
different
term?
question. I think the next few games are pivotal for him. I like Ollie. I think I don't know him personally, but he seems like a really nice guy. Perhaps a bit too nice in the dressing room. I'm not sure he's digging people out when they need to be dug out. Is he going to take Man United to that elite level again? I'm not quite sure. I'm not convinced over the 100+ games he's had. I think there's at least one better guy out there at the moment waiting for a job. So he's bought himself a bit of time with the Everton win. But I think he's getting more frustrated with the pressure that he's been put under. But you're going to expect that from such a big club, and I think the next few games are pivotal for him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I take it that one man is Poch you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you on that. I mean, it's interesting though, isn't it? When a manager's really under pressure, he goes to the players he can rely on, whether that's mental strength or however you want to word it, but even more so over technique and ability. And Paul Pogba's been on the bench 5 of the last 7 games in all competitions.
And it was one of Mourinho's last acts as well before he was sacked, that he dropped Pogba as well. So there seems to maybe be something going on there. He hasn't played that well for France either. Didier Deschamps has been talking about that and sort of where his confidence levels are at and maybe his mood and you know, Pogba himself said that the collective at France is maybe better than what he experiences at club level. So there's clearly issues going on. I mean, on talent, you'd pick him every time, but I think on form, it's not that big a surprise that he's dropped him because they needed that solidity, I think, of sort of at least one of Fred or McTominay in there, and he's gone for both. And Bruno Fernandes has kind of taken that attacking role and made it his own. So it's then that question that's been asked many times about Pogba is where does he fit in this Manchester United team? And it's probably somewhere off the left, but I'm not sure he massively enjoys doing that role. And you do wonder if sort of a break, a move would do him and Manchester United, some good.
Yeah, he did play there for Juve, didn't he? And did well. But you're right.
It was a different type of Juventus team, though, and Pirlo was able to find people and sort of, you could play in off the left, but Pirlo being able to give you the ball, Fred and McTominay are not going to be able to do that. There's no disgrace in not being as good as Pirlo.
Fair to say there's no Pirlo in that United side at the moment. But they haven't won a home league game this season. I mean, how important is it? People talked about, I didn't think even if they lost to Everton that he would lose his job, but some said it was make or break. They weren't to win this and maybe even lose this as well. What could that mean for United and Ollie?
The pressure
against
will
West
mount.
Brom.
Yeah, the pressure will mount. They haven't, like you said, they haven't won a home game. I think that will change this weekend. But again, when we talk about fans not being allowed in the stadium, I think they've benefited from that this season, in terms of they've not won and they would get on your back. I don't think they get. Previously, when we've had calls on TalkSport, they're not getting on Ollie too much, which surprises me sometimes. I think it's just starting to turn. I think they're just starting to remember who's out there with Poch. And if they lost this, which is a big if, I think the pressure will be really, really mounting on him, and the press will turn. The crowds, if they were in, they would definitely have been turned already. it's a big one for him. It really is this weekend.
Okay. Betfred selection?
Home win. I'm going home win.
Oh yeah, Man United to win to 0. West Brom failed to score in 5 of their Premier League games so far.
Yeah, I think they're almost the perfect team for United, aren't they, at the moment? And I think United to win both halves. Game preview 5, Sunday. It is Fulham against Everton. Now Fulham seem to be slowly but surely turning it around. They beat West Brom. They would have drawn against West Ham if Ademola Lookman didn't think he was Panenka, although Sergio Ramos. That Lookman penalty is now looking fantastic with that Ramos penalty.
Nevin, wasn't it?
But they are getting better, aren't they?
They are. I think the signings that they made, and we've spoken about this before, the fact that they came up so late, much later than ordinarily would be expected. They weren't able to plan. They brought all the new players in quite late, but then you look at the players that are playing and the ones that can't necessarily play, and Lookman and Loftus-Cheek, I think, have made and will make a difference as the season goes on. I suppose there would be concerns. Mitrovic hasn't sort of caught fire yet, and they will.
Will it be on pens?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so because he missed one for Serbia, but I don't think it'll be Lookman anyway. Maybe there's been some penalty practice. They're getting better, but it was from a low starting point.
Yeah. Conceded 10 in the first 3 games. It's now just 5 in the last 5. Do you feel they're getting better especially with the new players they've got in?
I do, yeah. I first few games I thought they're down already. They're really struggling. They've turned that a little bit around. I think Scott Parker's a big reason for that. I think he recognised where they were struggling, conceding far too many, and he's made them a bit more harder to beat. Like you said, they should have got the draw against West Ham. I think it'll be tough for them this year, and they're going to be down there all season. But with Scott Parker, I think they've got that little bit extra that they could potentially get a few more points and stay up.
You think they will stay up?
Whether they will, I don't know. I just think they for me, West Brom are going to be down. I think Fulham are a bit different to that, and I think Scott Parker's the reason for that.
Yeah, I think he's really underrated actually. Because of his lack of experience, people are throwing things at him, but I think he's the right man in charge. Everton, since Richarlison joined in 2018, they haven't won any of the 8 Premier League games that he's been involved in. They lost all 3 when he was suspended. I take it he's coming back.
Yeah.
How important is he to Everton?
Oh, he is. He's very important. I just think that he opens up the pitch for them. And James will probably benefit from Richarlison being back, because obviously you can squeeze up more, can't you, if you haven't got that pace in behind that Richarlison offers. I mean, he's a quality player. He plays for Brazil. He scored against Uruguay in the last international as well. So, I mean, he is an important player. I still think that Everton should be able... you shouldn't have such a bad record when one player is absent. It's up to the others to step up. But they're clearly a better team with him in it than when he's not there.
I think this is going to be a really important game for Everton to see where they are as well. That the wheels have come off a little bit. This is the game that if they want to finish certainly top 4, if not top 6, they need to be winning. But what's your Betfred selection for this one?
I'm going to go score draw.
I'm going to go for an Everton win. I think Richarlison makes a big difference.
I'm going for a score draw as well. We'll wait and see what happens there. Okay, game preview 6, Sheffield United against West Ham. And Darren, I'm interested in what you think of Sheffield United, because it was an amazing season last season. 1 point from 8 games this season. They're rock bottom. I, though, wouldn't put money on them to go down at the moment. Would you?
No, I agree with you. I think it will change for them. I mean, I think it potentially going to change against West Ham. I think Chris Wilder is a fantastic manager. He showed that in the first year. They've got some good players. It's just it's not quite happening for them this season for whatever reason that may be.
Why do you think that could be?
I think teams have kind of found out how they play, and they know how to play against them. And now it's down to Chris Wilder to see if he is as good a manager as everyone says. Can he change the way he played last season with the defenders were making the box and overlapping the wide men, and teams have kind of sussed that out now, and they know how to play against them. So if he can change the way he plays and go to a more solid team, I think they've got enough quality that they'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, the stats don't... I mean, Darren agrees with me, but the stats don't look good. Not kept a clean sheet this season, conceded 14 goals, scored just 4. The fixtures haven't been kind to them, though, have they?
They haven't. No, I think they're in the middle of a tough run, particularly going to Chelsea, hosting Man City. They went to Anfield as well. So I think it has been...
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, in isolation, you lose all of those games and nobody sort of worries at all because they all come together, and the fact that they didn't make a great start. But even then, it was like Wolves, another team, not easy to play against. So I think that they will sort of, I suppose, enjoy the once it gets a bit easier on the run. I think in terms of why they've slipped back, I suppose it's regression to the mean as much as anything. They weren't expected to do as well. I think Ramsdale coming in and becoming the goalkeeper for Henderson is a downgrade in that area. I think the injuries, he was able to pick the same team for a large part of last season, and maybe they haven't got the squad depth. And I think the crowd of all the teams really in the Premier League, they seem to be one that play off that intensity really and the real buzz of it. And Bramall Lane's a horrible place to go when the crowd are sort of really up for it, and not having that, I think for them and say a Burnley, does make it harder.
Yeah, I totally agree. Fixtures haven't been kind to West Ham, but they've done pretty well, and since then they beat Fulham just before the break. How important, if they are to have a successful season, that they build on that and win this one?
That's exactly right. That you have to react off the game previously, and they would need to come out and win again. They got, like we've discussed, they got the fantastic comeback against Tottenham, and then they went on a good run. It was funny. It seemed to be when Moyes was at home, they kept winning.
We joked about it, Moyes.
Yeah,
save West Ham, stay at home.
It was incredible, but they've got some good players. Antonio's fantastic. Yeah. He'll cause anyone problems on his day. But again, this word consistency comes into play, and they're very inconsistent. And I think they need to go out in this game and get the points. But I mean, I'm not backing them.
Okay, I hope that Antonio is fit and he will make a difference. But what is your Betfred selection?
Yeah, I'm going to throw a spanner. I think Sheffield United will win this. I think I'm going to go home, win, both teams to score.
Okay.
I think I would like to see Antonio fit for this selection, but I was going to go West Ham, draw no bet, so you get your money back if it's a draw.
Okay, I don't think there'll be many chances in this game. I think Sheffield United will try and keep it tight. I'm going to go for a very low scoring draw. Could even be 0-0, we'll wait and see. Okay, good game this one though. Game preview 7, Leeds United against Arsenal. And let's start with Arsenal here. A strange side, you'll probably enjoy this topic now.
Yeah.
Well, both of you will. Play well and beat Manchester United, and then we're absolutely shocking against Villa. Where are they right now?
They're not title contenders. Obviously, I'm on...
You enjoyed saying that,
I'm on Darren Bent's boot room, and he's a big Arsenal fan, and quite a few of the producers are as well. So I do enjoy the way it's going sometimes for them. I think, similar to Frank, he's got a lot of signings. They're just not gelling as quick as Frank's have. And the form of Aubameyang has been a real turning point of their season. I think getting him on that penalty the other game could turn it back in their favour.
Do you know that's his only shot on target in the last 4 matches?
I can imagine. I mean, since the contract, I know everyone keeps saying since the contract, but it has been the form.
Do you think it has played
I do, yeah.
Psychologically?
I do. Prior to it, as a player, as you know, you think, what's your future hold, and can I get this move, that move? I mean, he's obviously, they put a little bit more money on his contract and he signed it, but he's relaxed now. He's thinking, well, I'm here, and it's harsh to say that because you never know what the reasons are. Forwards go through barren spells more often than not, but it just seemed very, it was a strange timing of his barren spell just after.
There's a coincidence there, isn't there, going on at the very least. Arsenal lost 3 of the last 4 league games, failed to score in those 3 defeats, haven't found a goal in open play in almost 6.5 hours. I mean, just when you think Mikel Arteta is getting somewhere.
I mean, as well as that, I mean, Willian decided to not inform the club and went on a holiday, and there was Arteta was talking about these non-negotiables and got rid of Guendouzi, and he got rid of Ozil, and now he's facing with another problem here with one player that he brought in on really big money for somebody that a lot of people felt was being overpaid for the age that he was at in Willian. So a bit of indiscipline there as well, which doesn't help. I still think that Arteta can be a big success at Arsenal. I mean, last season there were enough signs, I think, that he was heading in the right direction, but there are clearly concerns there now, and I think one of the problems I found is the way that he micromanages on the touchline. He's almost like he tells the players what to do. Every single pass, he's too involved. I think.
Is he not like Pep?
No, but I still think that Pep allows the team that freedom within the structure, and at the moment it seems very rigid at Arsenal, and the players are almost looking at Arteta sort of, am I able to do this run? Yeah, it's not off the cuff, and I still think you need to have that sort of bit, particularly in the final third, where you do stuff that maybe surprises defences and stuff like that, and it's just not happening. It's quite boring to watch at the moment. I'm sure that's not the plan, but it's what's coming out.
Yeah, I just wonder whether it's because of the quality of players are different to what he's got with Pep, and if he had those type of players, but I agree totally with what you're saying. Leeds are not doing any better, I have to say, certainly not in the last few games anyway. 3 defeats from 4, conceded 8 in the last 2 matches. I've got my own thoughts about Bielsa and Leeds, and they're very positive ones, but what's yours?
I think he's a fantastic manager. I do. I think he'll hate the last 2 games. To lose 4-1 twice in a row is, and particularly, particularly the last one against Palace, who are renowned to not score a lot of goals, to then lose 4-1 to them. I think he'll be very, very disappointed. But that could have been such a different result if the Bamford goal that was rightly should have been given.
What did you make of that?
I thought it was outrageous, and the problem is every week you're coming in and you're saying, "Oh, it's the worst one yet. It's the worst one yet." But that one there was
the worst one yet.
And for me, as a midfielder, for a forward, you want them to be pointing to let you know where they want the pass. Otherwise, unless you know where they want it, you're not going to play the pass. So to disallow that, although with my Palace head on, I was quite pleased, but to disallow that was just a ridiculous decision. But I really like Bielsa, going back to him. I think he's brilliant. I think he'll change. Everyone at the start were going, they're brilliant. They're going to be like up there in the European place. I think they've been found out a little bit, but they've got enough to stay around mid-table, I think.
Yeah, we mustn't forget they've not been in the Premier League for 16 years, spent time in League One in that time, and they didn't spend that much either in terms of bringing in lots of different players. So, yeah, I agree with you about mid-table, something like that. Betfred selection for this one, though. It's a good game.
I think I like watching Leeds. I think there's a lot of goals in Leeds games, so I'm going to say over 4.5 goals in this game.
Are you? I'm watching it.
It's going to be fun. I'm going to go for a Leeds win. I think they've been a little bit unlucky with those 2 heavy defeats, and Arsenal, if they're as sort of rigid and as slow as what they have been in recent games, Leeds might be able to run them off their feet.
I'm going with you. I think Arsenal have more quality, but I think Leeds will overpower them. Bielsa would have worked them in the international break, so a home win there. Okay, game preview 8 on Sunday. Now, what an interesting game this is. Liverpool against Leicester. Surely there's never been a better time to play Liverpool right now, straight after the international break. And how many players have they got out?
Yeah, it is, and there's no crowd in as well, and Anfield has been a fortress, so Trent Alexander-Arnold, Gomez, Van Dijk, they're definitely out in terms of that back. Salah, of course, in the forward line, there's doubts over Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago Alcantara, and Robertson as well, although I think it seemed reasonably positive that he might be available, but that's a lot of issues for any team to have to deal with. That has been reflected in the odds, though, I should say. Liverpool are drifting now.
What do you think? Do you think Jamie Vardy be licking his lips over this Liverpool back four?
I do. I think he will be relishing this game. I think he'll know he's going to get chances. On the flip side, Liverpool, I think they've got enough quality going forward. If they wanted, they could just try and score more goals than the opposition. I think it could be going this way until they get a few defenders back. It's going to be very difficult for them, particularly against a forward player like Vardy with the pace, and he seems to like playing against Liverpool as well. So it's going to be a tough game for Liverpool.
Yes, 7 goals he's got against Liverpool in 11 games. He's got 8 in 7 this season as well. Liverpool unbeaten in the last 63 league home games, the joint longest run between 1978 and 1980. Wow. Who did they lose against? Leicester. That's got absolutely nothing to do with this game at the weekend. But I just wonder whether chuck in the Brendan Rodgers factor as well. I mean, surely this Leicester will never have a better time to go to Anfield and win here.
No, I agree. I think, like I said, they will be confident going into this game. They will look at it and say they're going to have not just a makeshift defence, probably a makeshift team being put out. It's not going to be the team they were expecting at the start of the season that they'll face. So they'll be licking their lips, as you said, to play this game. But if anyone can produce a performance, it's Jurgen Klopp, and he'll put out a team. I don't think he'll put out a team to go and smash Leicester out the park, but I think he'll put out a team that will be competitive. And I mean, who knows? Like Mark said, who knows who will actually come back fit and could potentially play.
Okay, but what we know right now, what's your Betfred selection for this one?
I'm going to score draw. I think I think Leicester will. I think there'll be quite a few goals actually. I went 2-2.
2-2.
I'm going to go for. I agree that there'll be goals. So I mean, over 2.5, both teams to score. I think are both side bets. But I'm going to chuck that in with Liverpool to win as well. I still think with Jota and Firmino and Mane, they've got enough to win the game.
I am actually going against that. I think Liverpool decimated by injuries. Even their front players will have done a lot of football in the last couple of weeks, a lot of travelling as well. Vardy been resting. He will be licking his lips. I'm going for a Leicester win on this one. Okay, game preview 9 on Monday. It is Burnley against Palace. Not quite sure this will be a classic, but how do you see it? We've got two teams who are quite happy without the ball.
Yeah, Palace in particular. I worked down at Crystal Palace for the last, when we're allowed to go there, I worked down there, and I've seen them for 2 years now, and they've started this year the way they play every game. They're comfortable out of possession, and the difference this season is they're winning games with 30, one of them was 28, 27% possession, 30, 35. I think the games they're losing, Everton, I think they had 47. So they're actually having too much possession in them games, and they end up losing.
Don't know what to do with it.
They don't. But yeah,
they counter well though, don't they?
They do. They've got some fantastic forward players. Obviously Zaha, everyone speaks about him. He is their main man. And he's come back this season, and he's already outstatted his last season. He's got more goals, more assists. So he's come back firing this year. Ayew, he's a good player. He's underrated for me. And the boy Eze who's come in is brilliant. I mean, I've watched him a few times, and he's a very, very good talent. And the free kick he scored just showed. And I mean, Patrick Van Aanholt was going to take that free kick, and I think Andros Townsend told him not to. He's been doing it in training, so it's a good decision. So I can see Palace doing well this game.
I saw Eberechi Eze a lot last season, and he was in my Championship team of the year, so I'm not surprised at all that Palace snapped him up. And Burnley have scored the fewest goals, had the fewest shots on target in the Premier League this season. Still looking for their first win. I mean, things aren't looking good at the moment, are they? This is a big game for them.
It is. I felt it was a big game a couple of games ago against West Brom, and they got the 0-0. They got the 0-0 against Brighton, where I suppose Sean Dyche will look at it and say, well, the two games in between that were Tottenham, where they didn't play that badly, and Chelsea, where they were just outclassed. So, I mean, he'll be looking and thinking this is a much more sort of at their level and the type of game they can win. You look at the centre-backs and think, well, they're now coming back to match fitness as well as just being fit. I still think, though, there's a bit of a problem up front where that Barnes and Wood are awkward customers, but I do think that teams, and we were talking earlier about working Sheffield United out, I think teams have now countered what Burnley sort of do with those two, and I wonder if there's a way that he can, and maybe does need to just change it up a little bit, because it's pretty much the same, and there are other players that, could you move McNeil sort of off the wing into a more central position? Could you maybe try and get J-Rod into the team and sort of it's a bit more finesse to it. I mean, those are sort of the sort of questions really that Dyche has to come up with the answers to.
Well, he complained he didn't get enough money to take by the quality, but this is where his real management and coaching skills will come in. Everyone's talking about he can do a job elsewhere. He's got to try and not go plan B, but do something a little bit different, doesn't he, to keep them up. Betfred selection for this one?
I think it'll be a comfortable away win to 0.
I think there will be a 0. There might be 2 0s in this one. I'm going for a draw. I think it will be very tight.
Oh, yeah, I'm somewhere in between, but I agree with you. I think it'll be a Palace win. I think they'll counter very well indeed. Okay, game preview 10. The Monday Night Football, Wolves, Southampton, and this should be a good game as well. Although Wolves are a very good side, but you don't see many goals in their game. Southampton, no one scored more goals in the Premier League this season in the first half of games. How do you see this one panning out?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think apart from the obvious Man City Tottenham game, I think this is probably up there with the best one this weekend. Two really, really good teams on good form. Like you said, goal scorers as well. I think Ings will be a big miss, but it opens the door for a Che Adams to come in and see if he can step into them shoes, and he's obviously started well and done that already. Nuno's got Wolves playing really, really well as well. I think this will be a really good game, and it's one of probably the pick of them for me. I think I'm really looking forward to this one.
It is a really interesting one. Didn't miss Danny Ings in the last game, but he is a big player that you can't afford to be for too long without him. How do you see it? Looking for their fourth straight win, of course.
Yeah, I think you always feel more confident in sort of going for Southampton when Ings is there. I think Walcott's never going to I don't think he's going to reach the goal tallies of what Danny Ings, but he actually did quite well, I thought, for the team in what Hasenhüttl wanted him to do in that forward position with Adams. He sort of offered a lot of energy and that threat in behind that Ings has got. Obviously, he's just not going to be able to replicate those goals, but I mean, he's a really good coach, Hasenhüttl. When you can look at him at Southampton and then look at Solskjaer at Manchester United. I mean, if those two swap positions and sort of Hasenhüttl was in charge of Man United, I don't think anybody would say, oh, blimey, he's out of his depth there, And so he's really impressed me with Southampton over the last 12 months.
He's getting the best out of his players, of that, there's no doubt. So your Betfred selection for this one, tough one.
It is a tough one, actually. It'll be a great game. I'm saying both teams to score, but I think Southampton will nick this game.
Okay.
I'm going to go for a half-time draw. I know that stat you mentioned there about Southampton being brilliant in the first half of matches. Wolves, it tends to be really tight in their first halves. They've failed to score in 6 of their last 7 first halves. So I'm going to go for a half-time draw.
Yeah, I actually think that as good as Southampton are, I think Wolves are better defensively than Southampton are going forward, especially without Danny Ings. I'm going for a low-score draw here. Okay, fantasy football picks this weekend. We pick a player who we think will perform best. Who you've gone for?
No surprise, I'm going for the man of the moment, Jack Grealish. I think he's going to come back with full of confidence. He's going to go into the game happy, and I mean, he's already in scintillating form anyway. I've already said he'll for me, he's going to score any time. He's going to create a lot of chances, and with their forward play, he could most likely get an assist as well. So Jack Grealish for me.
Okay, I'm going to follow that up next because I think Grealish will be great. I think McGinn will be on a high. I'm going for Ollie Watkins, because I think that those two and others will give him plenty of assists. So I can imagine him filling his boots this weekend. I really can, Ollie Watkins.
Watkins is on pens as well, isn't he? So that's another tick in these boxes. I'm going for Richarlison to bounce back with a bang. He let his team down with that late red card. I think he owes them a performance. And Everton have actually got a nice run of games sort of coming up where hopefully he can find his best form. And he did score for Brazil against Uruguay the other night as well.
Good game that. Okay, team treble. A team we think is going to win. Who have you gone for?
I've gone Crystal Palace. I think they'll have. We've already said they'll have too much for Burnley on the counter attack. So yeah, I think Palace will win comfortably.
Okay, Crystal Palace. This is 12-1, by the way, for our three. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Bournemouth to beat Reading. Reading were sort of astounding people with their early season results in the Championship. But if you looked at sort of the key performance sort of data in terms of shots and expected goals, they were well off, and it was no surprise, let's say, that they've come back to the field. And actually, you look at that Bournemouth team, and it's still carrying quite a lot of players that were in the Premier League last season. I didn't expect them to keep as many as what they have done. Obviously lost Wilson, but I think there's enough there to beat Reading quite comfortably.
And the attitude of those players is spot on, which is difficult when you drop down, isn't it? As we talked about, I'm going for Villa. I think that they will win that game. There's a lot of definites this weekend, but the odds aren't particularly great. But I think Villa will definitely win for reasons I've said about Jack Grealish, McGinn, Ollie Watkins, Tyrone Mings. 12-1, team treble. Put a quid in it. Let's have finally a quick look at the Champions League group stages, shall we? That's going next midweek. We start off with Rennes-Chelsea, and last time out, Chelsea beat Rennes 3-0. There was a shocking referee's decision which kind of killed the game. But Rennes not doing well in the Champions League, are they, this season?
No, it feels like a bit overawed by the occasion. You do sometimes get that with teams that are not used to it. Even without the crowds, they just haven't played to the levels that I think they are capable of. Camavinga, their star central midfielder, has been missing for a couple of those games, and he makes such a big difference. There's a lot of talk about him going to Real Madrid. So, if he can come back, and Nzonzi as well has been missing important games for them, The fact that Nzonzi's seen as an important player, you kind of see the class
Tells you a lot.
difference between Chelsea and Rennes, and it's probably a good opportunity here for Chelsea to win again.
A win for Chelsea and they could qualify after just 4 matches. You see them doing it?
Yeah, definitely. It'll be. They're going to have far too much again. I think it's 3-0 last time out, and I think I can see it being more this time. I think they're Chelsea are gelling very well, as we discussed, and I think the forward players that they've got are going to just score so many goals this season, and they'll comfortably win this.
Yeah, Tammy Abraham looking to score in 4 consecutive starts. The last Blues striker to do that, Nicolas Anelka, almost a decade ago. Manchester United versus Istanbul Başakşehir. Now, how interesting is this one after what happened in Istanbul?
I'm looking forward to that first Manchester United corner to see whether they've found a bit
11
of shape.
players back.
Yeah, I mean that was a shocking first half really from United. I mean that goal summed up a lot of what went. The second half they did put on the pressure. They very nearly got an equaliser as well. It was cleared off the line, and I think they just took the game too easy. Really, in that it was the attitude was just totally wrong. That I suppose is why people did blame Solskjaer, because it felt like an attitude issue as much as anything else. So. I would expect Manchester United to bounce back and win this game. They've done well previously in the Champions League, beating Paris and Leipzig. That is a bit dependent on them beating West Brom, because if they don't beat West Brom, I just wonder what the mood will be like around the whole club. But assuming they do, I think that they'll get another 3 points.
It was a great start to the group, 2 wins from 2. How important is it that they win this one, because they have got PSG and Leipzig to come back, who will be absolutely desperate to win both games?
Yeah, massively important. It's one of those. I agree with Mark. I think perhaps they was a bit disrespectful and didn't show them enough respect in that game, and they got caught out massively. So they won't do that again. Like we discussed, the goal, you'll never see a goal like that again in football. Never mind for one of Ollie's team. It was just embarrassing. But I think they'll have too much. I think they'll go out. They won't show them. They'll show them more respect as they did. They know what they expect now, and yeah, I can see them winning this quite comfortably.
Attitude be right. United win there. Olympiacos, Manchester City. Looks a bit easier for City. 3 wins from 3. 1 more, they qualify. Olympiacos away though.
I mean,
what do you think?
Well, it's always seen traditionally tough place to go. I think the absence of crowds sort of negates that. And there have been sort of local decisions on when sort of some crowd can go in, but it's not the same anyway as a full stadium. City have been given just an absolute sort of free roll really to the knockout stages. It's an easy draw. I expect Pep to pick a strong team, get the qualification job done, and then you haven't got to worry about it again until the new year. So, I mean, I would expect them to win almost as easily as they did at the Etihad. Yeah,
it's 3 wins from 3, and they've scored 3 goals in each of those 3 games. Could they do the same here?
I think it'll be a little bit tighter than what Mark's saying. I think Olympiacos are notoriously quite difficult to play at home. We've seen that in the past. So I think it'll be a little bit tighter. But I still think Man City will win this comfortably. And like Mark said, get qualified, and then just concentrate on turning the league form and looking up the league.
Same for Liverpool as well. They got Atalanta. They won 3 from 3. I mean, can't be as easy as the away leg 5-0, can it?
I don't think it will be as easy, because they'll have the makeshift team again. But it gives the fringe players the opportunity to show, because they're potentially not going to be fringe for a while. If they can come into games like that and play well, particularly in defence, then the league team, they could jump straight into the league team. So it's always good for a team when you've got injuries that the younger players come through, or the fringe players, because they always want to impress. And I still think this will be comfortable, and actually a real comfortable week in Champions League football for all the English teams, I feel.
You go along with that, Mark?
I think this is a tricky game, because Atalanta have done well in terms of the competition last year. They grew into it. They started poorly and got better. And in Serie A, they're capable. They drew with Inter last time out. They've also been absolutely thumped away to Napoli, and you're not quite sure what you're going to get from them, which makes them quite interesting as outsiders. If you are looking for an upset, then they're capable enough. I would just say over 3.5 goals. That gives you what Liverpool have got going forward. That plays to their strengths. But Atalanta have got goals in them as well, so it should be really fun. This would be the game I'd be most excited about from an English point of view.
Okay, good stuff, chaps. So what are you up to this weekend? Down Benty's boot room?
Yeah, I'm back on Bentley's boot room on Sunday. That'll be good. That'll be a good one. Hopefully Tottenham can pick up the win and I can continue that. Tottenham can win the title this year.
Tottenham to win, Arsenal to lose. That'll make your weekend, won't it? Listen, really good to see you. Mark, as ever, thank you. Okay, that's it for this week. We're back, of course, next week. We'll look back to see if Darren's predictions are right or not. And, of course, we'll look ahead to next week's games as well. Remember, from everyone here at Betfred and also the Racing Post, if you do gamble, please gamble responsibly.